The Kawasaki C-2 is one of the most intriguing military systems of our times. Even though it is designed to replace the C-130H and C-1s of the Japan Air Self-Defense Force, or shortly JASDF, can we describe it in the same class of the military transport aircraft? This question might give us a valuable opportunity to discuss the misinterpretations of the current market. As the weapon detective, we're now investigating the C-2 and the change it represents. The C-2 is the largest aircraft ever developed independently by Japan after the Second World War, which makes it a milestone for the Japanese aviation industry. But it is also one of the symbols of the changing military transport aircraft market worldwide. To better understand this change, first we should briefly look at the history and features of the C-2. By 1990s, the Japan Self-Defense Forces began to join international operations even though it didn't send combat units. Also, the newly adopted military vehicles, such as the Type 89, were now exceeding 20 tons, and the JASDF had no military transport aircraft which could carry them. So, in the mid-1990s, Japan evaluated the existing C-17 Globemaster III and the projected C-130J Super Hercules, as well as the A400M. This study showed that they would not answer the future requirement of the JASDF. Thus, in 2000, Japan decided on the indigenous development of a new military transport aircraft. It would have turbofan engines and carry double the payload of the C-130. Also, the aircraft's range would allow flights from Japan to Hawaii. In 2001, Japan formally issued a request for proposal regarding the new transport aircraft to replace its aging Kawasaki C-1 and C-130H Hercules fleet. To reduce costs, Japan decided to execute the CX program in parallel with the PX Maritime Patrol Aircraft program. The same year, the government met the related Japanese companies. 3 of them applied to become the main contractor, and Kawasaki won. Yet, the other companies were still the main subcontractors, and they gained large work shares in the program. Mitsubishi Heavy Industries was in charge of the middle and rear fuselage and ventral fairings, while Fuji Heavy Industries, which is today's Subaru, was responsible for the main wings. Also, many other major Japanese companies, such as Nippon Corporation, Toshiba, Shinfonia Technology, Mitsubishi Electric, Shimazu Corporation, Sumitomo Precision Products participated in the program as subcontractors. The PX would have new indigenously developed turbofans. But Japan decided to use a foreign engine for the CX to increase the international market success of the new military transport aircraft and its possible civilian variant. So, it evaluated several turbofan engines, including the Rolls-Royce Trent 800, the General Electric CF6-80C2, and the Pratt & Whitney PW4000, and selected the CF6-80C2 L1F in 2003. In the same year, the aircraft successfully passed the preliminary governmental design review, which allowed for prototype production. However, many flaws were discovered during the structural test of the first prototype. Besides, the static strength tests in 2007 revealed numerous additional structural problems. So, the CX program witnessed the redesign phase multiple times. Because Japan postponed the FX project in 2008, modernizing the F-15J fleet gained priority. The cost of this program caused budget cuts and 1 additional year delay for the CX. To cap them off, the acquisition of the 5 General Electric CF6-80C2 engines for the prototype became a subject of a bribery allegation. Initially, Japan had planned to finalize the development phase between 2001 and 2004, the production of the prototype between 2003 and 2009, and trials between 2006 and 2011. But all these setbacks caused delays. The aircraft performed its maiden flight on January 26, 2010. Yet the troubles continued. In 2014, the program experienced a further delay because of the failure of the rear cargo door during pressure tests. Still, the C-2 formally entered service with the JASDF in 2016. Even though such problems were not surprising for a military project, they naturally caused dramatic cost increases. So, Japan, which initially planned to acquire 40 C-2s, reduced the number to 22 in 2018. The forward fuselage and horizontal stabilizer are made of a type of high-performance carbon fiber and toughened epoxy resin called KMS 6115. It has a much greater tensile and comprehensive strength than conventional composite materials. Developed by Kawasaki, the KMS 6115 is also lightweight and low cost. As a typical military transport aircraft, the C-2 has a high-wing design, which makes the cargo compartment as wide as possible compared to the low-wing design. However, as always, there's a catch. The high-wing design creates higher air resistance than its rival, which reduces the speed. But the JASDF had requested high cruising speed since the beginning. So, to solve this problem, the Japanese engineers preferred supercritical aerofoil, which delays the onset of wave drag in the transonic speed range. Also, the turbofan engines of the C-2 produce more thrust than turboprops and still keep fuel efficiency. Thus, the C-2 has a high subsonic speed comparable to that of commercial airliners, which makes it faster than many other jet transport aircraft. The cargo bay is 15.65 meters long, 4 meters wide, and 4 meters high. The aircraft's automated loading-unloading system reduces personnel and ground equipment workloads. The C-2 has a wind deflector on the rear door to increase the safety of paratroopers during dropping. The aircraft is equipped with a glass cockpit and fly-by-wire flight controls. During low-level flights, the crew uses a tactical flight management system which guides and displays the flight path on the head-up display screen in the cockpit. It also suggests threats on the road such as hills, buildings, and pre-detected air defense systems, and displays the avoidance route to increase survivability. The nose houses navigation and weather radar. The sensors of the missile warning system and radar warning receiver are on the left and right sides of the radar dome and the rear of the fuselage. To reduce development costs, the JASDF did not request the ability to operate on rough terrain for the C-2. Yet, the aircraft was tested for this capability in 2020. This trial was most likely conducted for the possible export to the United Arab Emirates. This country is requesting a military transport aircraft which can take off and land on semi-prepared airstrips. Thanks to its powerful engines with thrust reversers, the C-2 maintains the same short takeoff and landing performance as the C-1, although it is heavier than its predecessor. The aircraft uses a boom-type system for air refueling, which has the advantages of higher fuel flow rates and higher stability in turbulent air. However, unlike its many other modern counterparts, the C-2 cannot fuel other aircraft in the air. The C-2 can carry 20 tons of cargo to 7,600 kilometers distance. But as the weight carried increases, its range naturally decreases. The range of the aircraft is 5,700 kilometers with 30 tons of cargo and 4,500 kilometers with 36 tons of cargo. In addition to the military transport variant, the C-2 has an electronic intelligence model called RC-2. Its development began in 2015. The RC-2s will replace the YS-11EBs. Besides, Japan is working on an electronic warfare variant of the C-2 to replace the YS-11EAs. It is known that Kawasaki has also studied the development of a civil-oriented version of the C-2 to sell to commercial operators. The three-person crew of the C-2 consists of a pilot, co-pilot, and loadmaster. The aircraft has a length of 43.9 meters, a wingspan of 44.4 meters, and a height of 14.2 meters. Its wing is 240 square meters. The empty weight of the C-2 is 69 tons, while its maximum takeoff weight is 141 tons. The power plant consists of two 265.7 kN General Electric CF6-80 C2K1F turbofan engines. Its top speed is 917 km per hour, while its cruise speed is 890 km per hour. The service ceiling is over 13,000 meters, in other words, 43,000 feet. Yes, the C-2 is replacing the C-1s and C-130Hs of the JASDF, but are they the same class aircraft? The C-2 can carry 2 times heavier loads than the C-130H and 4 times heavier loads than the C-1. Also, it has nearly twice the range compared to the C-130H and more than 4 times compared to the C-1. The C-130 is a military transport aircraft that sets the standards of its class. Currently, the natural successors of the Hercules in its class are the C-130J Super Hercules and the C-390 Millenium. The C-130 competed with the C-160 in the past. Also, the previous C-1 was not the same type of military transport aircraft as the Hercules. It is in the same class as the C-295 and C-27J Spartan. Then how accurate is it to compare the C-2 with the C-130J or C-390 in the international market? The real competitor of this aircraft is A400M, which is also in a different class than the Super Hercules and Millenium. So why is Japan replacing the C-1 and C-130H fleet with the C-2? As mentioned before, the Japan's self-defense forces began to take heavier equipment into the service toward the late 1980s. So it needed a new military transport aircraft which could carry more loads than the C-1 and C-130H. Also, Japan began to deploy its units abroad since the 1990s. In 2017, the JASDF deployed a C-2 to Djibouti in Africa for the first time. 4 years later, at the request of the USA, Japan sent a C-2 to assist with the 2021 Afghanistan airlift following the fall of Kabul. These two events alone can show us the change in Japan's security perceptions. Securing the Japanese territory is not the only concern of the Japan self-defense forces anymore. For that reason, it needed a new military transport aircraft with an extended range than the C-1 and C-130H. For a country with similar operational requirement changes as Japan, the C-2 or A400M would be a suitable solution to replace the aging C-130s and C-160s. But for another air force, which only wants to replace its obsolete aircraft with the new ones with similar capabilities, the actual answer is the C-130J or the C-390. Many A400M users continue to operate military transport aircraft in the same class as Hercules. France and Germany have bought the Super Hercules. Turkey modernized its C-130s to use alongside with its A400Ms for many more years. Malaysia and Indonesia chose the Atlas to supplement their Hercules, not to replace them. Many A400M users have lighter military transport aircraft such as the CN-235 and C-295. Why? It is simple. It is not economical to transport a 5-ton cargo to 1,000 kilometers distance with an A400M. So why is the JASDF changing the entire composition of its transport fleet? We do not know the reason behind this radical transformation, but we think that Japan would eventually need a C-130J type or C-27J type aircraft. Still, with its superior capabilities, the C-2 is among the best in its class. Yet, as we mentioned in our earlier videos for other Japanese systems, the international market is traditional. It is hard to find a customer for a new player, especially one which produces high-cost systems. But maybe this time, Japan could break a leg with the C-2. Thanks for watching our video. And please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click the bell button to be notified of our new videos. Also, you can now click the join button to support our channel. And as always, we would greatly appreciate all of your likes, comments and shares.